Welcome everybody. Welcome everybody to our fireside chat at MYOB tonight, from stress to success. First, some words about us, Silicon Beach. Some of you might be here through Eventbrite, and you might have never heard of us, which we can't accept. So, Silicon Beach is one of Australia's, Melbourne's largest groups for startups and entrepreneurs. We're growing by about 100, 120 members a month and approaching 12,000 members these days. What we do is we bring people together. We're all about community, and we believe that a strong community is beneficial for the success of your startup and supports you on your journey to become the next Google or Facebook or Tesla. How are we doing this? By connecting you with like-minded people, like the ones you see left and right of you, as well as connecting you to a supporting system that is already in place, like our partners from MYOB, which are giving us this beautiful space for free to run our events here, and our partners for co-working spaces and educational partners like Academy XI. We mentioned MYOB, and I just want to put the question out there. Who does know what MYOB is doing? What MYOB is standing for? Anyone?
Mind your own business.
Yes, what?
Don't know.
So we should fill that gap of the knowledge. Please stand.
Sure.
All yours.
Hello everyone. Yes, so MYOB is just accounting software for businesses to help manage their business. So bookkeepers, accountants will help their clients and also our customers use the software. So you have online versions and desktop versions. So if you have any questions, or just come see me and Andy, yeah, happy to help you out if you need anything. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ben. So tonight we're here to talk about stress and how we can move from stress to a more successful life and a more successful business. I've been through some very stressful times just recently over the last 6 weeks, running my own startup, helping Silicon Beach to grow and grow the community, get better, stronger connections with the ecosystem. And I've experienced anxiety and depression some days over the last 6 weeks. And it was daunting, and I wanted to stay at home, pull a blanket over my head and hide until everything is over. Luckily I didn't. Instead I went out and found supportive people in my network that helped me to understand what's going on, why I feel the way I'm feeling, and helped me to get out of it and keep going. And I think going through it, I did grow through the experience that I've been through. And I think most of our fantastic people here at our panel today can share similar stories with you. All of them been at some time in a corporate job, working for someone else, most of them, and took the leap of faith to start their own business at some point. And want to start to introduce them to you. We start with Farzin. Farzin, about 1 year ago, you worked as a banker, still as a banker?
Yeah, I was actually working, I've had a banking career. Hi guys, obviously Farzin, first name. So yeah, I've had a 15-year career in banking. I was raised in India, and at 21 I kind of moved to New Zealand, migrated on my own. 10 years out there, and then I moved to Melbourne. The money in banking in Melbourne is great. I did that for the first 5 years, and my entrepreneurial journey has been on for the last 3 years. but what I've done is essentially gone back to a 9 to 5. My last one was Westpac, working contract, and I've got one of my colleagues up there sitting in the audience as well. I worked till the end of Jan. So entrepreneurial is sometimes misunderstood as you only have to do that and give up the 9 to 5. Entrepreneur is having a dream where you're trying to get your vision to, and essentially if it means you still have to go 9 to 5 but then come home and spend 3 hours on your dream or your passion project on the weekends, do that. So yes, just to answer this question, I was actually working with Westpac as a credit manager. I've never been a credit manager. I used to be a corporate relationship manager in banking till Jan. And I saved up some money, time to say goodbye. It was a contract role, and again focus on the business.
Awesome, thank you so much. And your business called now Success Simplified?
Yeah. Most people have asked me why Success Simplified. So the first thing I'd say is I'd love to say I came up with the name instantaneously. But as I mentioned about 3 years back, all I did in banking was having been raised in India, just to give you some perspective, you're chasing the next pay rise, the next job title, that's how we were raised. You're either a banker, doctor, lawyer, and you're given respect in society, so that's how I was raised. But about 3 years back, because of fate, unfortunately or fortunately, I would say fortunately now, I was let go from Bankwest. I took up a role on the Gold Coast and I was let go out. I'll just go back to Melbourne, join Hauser again. And the universe had a different plan for me altogether. I tried getting back into banking for about 5 or 6 months and I just couldn't get back. Hauser had a new CEO and stuff like that. And there's a Japanese concept called Satori and Kenshi. So sometimes you have a brilliant idea and that changes your life, and sometimes you struggle because you're going towards a certain thing, and out of that little fall comes out an idea. And what I realized was, because I was trying to make ends meet, I'm a New Zealander who is living in Melbourne, so obviously the government's not helping me while I'm unemployed for almost 2 years. And I was running Uber, and I thought that so many people who did 9 to 5 jobs were miserable in their lives, right? Because they're working for a stupid boss, or they just don't want to be there, but they have to wake up. Because we've created a world where, I'm writing a book at the moment, and I call this modern slavery. We've created a world where we actually have to go to jobs to earn money so we can feed our families. We have created a modern slavery world, we just call it a job. So when I'm driving Uber, I'm quite a talkative person, as you can see. I'm talking to people, and I'm like, not just the 9 to 5 jobs are suffering, maybe doctors, nurses who are helping people must be really satisfied with their lives, and unfortunately it wasn't the case. Everyone is chasing success. They just are chasing success based on the benchmarks that society has given us, or our parents have given us. What car you drive, do you live in Melbourne, or do you live in the outer suburbs? Do you have 2.5 kids and a picket fence? So Success Simplified, just to finish off there, was I was asking people, we've forgotten the whole concept that we only have one life. We're not coming back. There's no go around. So why don't we redefine what success means to us, and then live a life that's going to bring us happiness in the process? Because we're chasing that goal, and when we get to that goal, we realize we're not happy anyways. And we wasted another 5 or 10 years because society or our parents or somebody else expected us to do that. Thanks.
Awesome. Thanks so much. And we have Prati. And after a career in accounting, it was, you already run your second business, and you have big goals. You're going to save the planet from plastic, aren't you?
I'm the process. Thank you, David. So, start second is a third business. So yeah, I'm a serial entrepreneur. My name is Prati. I work for corporates starting from 21, actually 23. For the first 2 years, I was just a checkout girl. And 23, since then to 30, 29-ish, I did corporate. I was a corporate finance person. I did corporate finance for engineering companies, and anyone who would offer me a better salary, I would take that. So pretty much that's how the 7 years went, working for being a corporate finance woman. I became extremely like right on time, just headstrong, and you develop a personality which is so strong outside, but you are the same person inside because you are a corporate person, you are decent. So, and after that, I discovered.
Yeah.
Better.
Yeah.
Sorry. Fast forward, I met an amazing person that changed my life. I always knew that I wanted to do something of my own, but I did not know what. But I did know that one thing, that I had a love for tea. That changed my life. I was talking to this person, not realizing that he was the ex-superintendent of Indian tea industries, and he owned I don't know how many tea estates under his wing, and he had trained one of the best tea tasters in the world, and I had no idea. And I was just talking to him about how fun it is to drink tea. And then he told me, by the end of the conversation, he said, I'm 86, I'm retired, but I've met many people, but I haven't met someone who talks about tea like you. I don't know before I go, do you want to get trained? And I was like, yeah. So he trained me and I opened my tea business. And I started importing tea from India. After that, one thing led to another, and packaging became an issue. Because I would not find anybody who would give me a recycled material. Everybody would say this is recyclable, but that's not what I want to know. And then I opened up my horizons to sustainability. What is sustainability? Why am I talking my language? Sustainability is so many things. It's being mindful about so many things. You start with being mindful. You start with being aware. And that's when you go into, then it turns into material, like plastics and all that. So it starts from your head. If you're sustainable inside, you're sustainable outside. And as he said, I then started One Earth this year. And me and my team are still working on it to aid the recycling industry. And along with it, I realized now I have 500 hours of meditations that I've practiced and developed techniques of my own, and made a lot of small companies and business owners that I knew through my contacts. I made them my guinea pigs and I tested on them, and I told them, I promise you won't die, but let me do this. So when they allowed me to, we increased their productivity by 300 to 400% within months of making them do certain kind of techniques and meditations and being mindful. So for me, I'm a very sustainable person, sustainability inside, sustainability outside. And yeah, that's about it about me. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And last but not least, we have Michael. You have already over 20 years of experience in coaching in the mindfulness area, something like that, and not just for individuals, you're coaching businesses and organizations as well, not just in Australia but overseas too.
Hi everyone, thank you for coming. It's such a rainy night. So I'm old enough to have a millennial type career for the last 35 years, which meant that I've done a lot of things over the years, mainly in therapy for about 12, so I worked as physical therapy, emotional release therapy, and then I moved into management. I spent about 15 years working in the management of not-for-profits, mainly in Asia, but some other places as well. And one of the things that fascinated me as I was moving along in all those jobs and all those places is that I realized that there is a real dichotomy between the story that we tell ourselves about our life, as in our identity, and the sense of self, which doesn't seem to be attached to those. So if you, for some reason, lost your memory, someone plucked you out and put you in another country, there'll still be a you inside, but you'll be missing your story. So the question is, what are you going to be without that story, right? Who is the real you, so to speak? And I guess that kind of experience, plus some other stuff that I've done here and there, has brought me to the path of trying to inquire, who are we really, who am I, what is this space that we occupy when I say I am? And out of that came my mindfulness practice and my cooperation and deliberation in the sense of what are the practices that help us to discover that meaning. In terms of my current positions or what I do, I work with 3 different outfits. I work with an outfit called the Azure Leadership Institute, and we mainly do group work and coaching online with companies and higher management. The same outfit has another layer called Team Up. And Team Up is doing similar stuff, mainly online, but with NGOs, with organizations, institutions. And for the last few years, I've also been developing a practice around positive neuroplasticity. You hear about neuroplasticity quite a lot in the media, just in conversation. And what's interesting about it, of course, is the reason why you hear about it so much is because it's only when we got the kind of technology that we could start peeking into the brain and really see electrical impulses and changes in the brain that we started to realize how neuroplasticity worked. So up till about 10 years ago maybe, the notion was that the brain grows in a fantastic sort of way. In fact, we actually have the most complex object in the natural world in between our ears, which is pretty amazing if you think about the fact that there are galaxies out there. But the thought was that that brain matures and there's a lot of culling of neural pathways and whatnot during your teenage years, and then when you get to about mid-20s, it stops growing. And it's true that it stops growing in terms of its weight. So around about the mid-20s, which I think most of us are here at that age, the bad news is that you, at this point and from here onward, you start losing cells in the brain, right? Some say up to 10,000 cells a day. But the good news is it doesn't stop rewiring itself. In other words, the way that you think, the way that I think, the way that we all think, is pretty much what forms our habits. Our habits are a collections of the way that we think. And what our habits do is they form our personality, our character. So positive neuroplasticity comes to sort of counter the negative biases that we're wired for. By definition, as a human being, we're actually an animal and we've evolved in the savannah, and most of the way that our brain works is to look for negative stuff, just for threats. And we're very much wired for imprinting and imbibing negative kind of perceptions and experiences because it works for our survival. However, it doesn't really work for our sanity, in terms of like feeling happy and comfortable about life. So positive neuroplasticity comes to counter that by teaching us how to consciously bring up a more positive outlook to life. Not as in just, okay, let's be positive and have positive thinking and therefore we'll be happy. Really, how do we rewire our brains around habits and perceptions and thoughts that allow us to actually cultivate a more positive personality in that sense. So I work in all those 3, and I think that's why David thought that I was worthy enough to sit here. So just thank you for that.
Thank you so much. You mentioned that there are a lot of threats out there, and we were
That's the tea.
That's the tea.
Very good tea, right?
So once upon a time, our brain, the purpose of our brains were to protect us from enemies, from predators, and from other dangers that are out there. And actually, when you resign from your job, from your safe income, and from your security system, and you make the decision that you're now 100% responsible for your own life, that's quite daunting and dangerous as well. And most of us who went on this journey, creating their own business, starting their own startup, been through tough times from time to time. Ravi, would you want to tell us how your mindfulness practice helped you through those tough spots?
Yes, definitely. There has been sometimes you learn through when everything happens at the same time, and when you have one difficulty after the other, if only the universe was that perfectly aligned for you, how could it be like, oh, one solves number 2? So it doesn't work like that. Sometimes you're like flooded with everything together, and when that happens, I think that's when I learned how to create those techniques of meditations that I was talking to you about. I started the journey by just following a couple of meditations that I've found through somebody that they recommend, through a friend who recommended it to me, and I started doing a guided meditation. This was about 2 years or something ago. And through that guided meditation, within 2 or 3 weeks, I stopped my guided meditation. I felt like I can develop my own technique if I can control my energy. And then I started using some specific techniques that they came to me when I started asking specific questions to the universe or to my own mind. That if I want to achieve this, if I have my family issues, and now I have my first business, and now I have my second business, and now how do I do this about it, or how do I do that about it, and everything is getting clogged up. I realized that using shapes was the most fun thing that I ever did with meditation, that actually allowed me to put everything into alignments. And you don't have to really dig in so deep, like the answers. I always believe in the answers. It's always right in front of you, but you're looking for it everywhere. It's always right in front of you. So I thought of this when I was a child. Mom gave me a little pyramid as a gift to put in my room. And she must have told me back then something like, oh, pyramids are lucky. And then I didn't ask her more questions. And I was like, do you say so? And then I remembered that I used to read a lot about those pyramids in Egypt. Wonder why they built such massive pyramids. Pretty sure that's something to do with the shapes that attracts energy from different directions. And if you go into Mayan culture, or if you go into more and more and more ancient cultures, they have been using shapes so powerfully that we don't do it at this day and age. They have been using shapes to their favor, to aid them. How a circle is very different from a pyramid because it has sides where it's going to extract energy from all the sides of the earth and the universe. So what I did is I started doing a guided meditation for my own in my mind, and I created shapes around me which aligns my energy. Every time I would come out of the meditation, I would feel something really, really strange that, what did I just do? Well, very fast, as I would say, things started changing. Worlds started getting aligned, and I think that was the most fun thing that I did with my meditations, to discover the power of shapes. I would say to align. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, sure, go for it.
I'll just elaborate on this. So what I found in my last 2.5 or 3 year journey that I found, having been raised in India as well, meditation is like a big thing. What I found on my journey is if I would talk to people about this kind of stuff, people switch off. And on my 2.5 year journey, what I've done is I've taken myself from absolute successful banker to almost broken, kind of homeless if I almost got there. And I was now, let's go get a 9 to 5 job again so we can get the business going. But coming back to the point I'm trying to make, what I figured out is if I talk this, the Western culture, and obviously been mentioned before, what the mystics used to do in the meditation is only now being discovered by neuroscience and stuff. But I went everywhere between psychology, neuroscience, meditation, positive psychology, which is a new field of psychology since 2000 and stuff, I'm not pretty sure it is. But what I found is, if I'm talking to the Western audience, you're going to switch off. So if I can make it logical enough for you, what she's just said, then you might be like, oh, that actually makes sense, let's try it. So if I can give people the science, that's what I do with the Success Simplified thing. I'm not just asking you to believe me. We give you the science, we give you the logical reasoning, and then we say, that will help you get to the experiential stage. Because if I just talk, sit in a room and just experience meditation, you'll be like, nah, that's probably not for me. So just to cover what happens out here, and we'll just cover there as well. Your beliefs become your thoughts. Let's just follow this chain of thought. Your beliefs become your thoughts. So when we're growing up, our subconscious mind up till 7 is very adaptable, and our parents tell us certain things. You notice if your dad followed Essendon or Carlton in the family, most people are following that. If he liked the Ford compared to a Holden, most people will follow that. Your beliefs create your thoughts will create your words will create your behaviors, how you act in the world. That creates your personality that becomes your destiny, whatever the fate is. So if in a logical sense, if I can just put anything, even this chair, anything in this world that is created, even what you're sitting on, somebody had a thought, let's cut wood into this shape and make a staircase. And that thought then was turned into reality and made here or a stoop. Everything in this world started with a thought. So thoughts are really important, and that's what mindfulness and meditation is. Just to put in a very logical sense of what she was trying to say on that. You want to add something?
Awesome. And coming back to stress and anxiety, and you say thoughts become beliefs, or beliefs become thought. So everything starts in your head, right? But it does not stay just in your head. It influences your body dramatically.
Yeah, absolutely. So David wanted me to talk about stress. So firstly, I'd just like to say thanks to all the guys who have come in here, because we call ourselves entrepreneurs, and the first thing I'd probably say about being an entrepreneur is having an open mind, not shutting off. And that's why I said the logical world of the Western culture, the world we live in, mindfulness, meditation, we switch off. So let me bring the logical sense. Everyone just says, I'm stressed. It's become a way of life, I'm busy. We all just have these tags that we throw on. Now, if you're just thinking about a thought process, our brain, now this is logic, just stay with me. Our brain, 10,000 years ago, there was a reptilian brain that we used to have. Okay, so its only job was to keep us alive. Then came the mammal brain, the limbic system, which has memory and thoughts and all that kind of stuff. And then came the neocortex, which is the latest addition to the human brain, and that's us, which you can plan for the future based on the past and all that kind of stuff as well. Now, what is stress? Most people just go, I'm stressed. They don't understand what stress is. When our ancestors used to live in forests, and when there's a tiger coming after you to save your life, stress is your body's biological defense system to save you from getting killed. That's as simple as it is. Your brain feels something, or sees something. So that's my wallet, that's not good there. But we've been given, as human beings now, again, if you understand this, everything in your life will just go very simply. We've been given 5 perceptions, right? We can see, taste, touch, feel, smell. That would give it, because it sends a signal to our brain saying there's a threat or something's happening, right? So when that threat comes about, my brain is actually in stress mode and it releases chemicals in my body. What chemicals are being released? So your body goes into acidic state, because essentially your skin will start getting acidic, because if a tiger bites into your skin, you don't want to taste too good. There's acid going into your system, your immune system shuts down. It doesn't care whether it has to fight cancer right now, because you might not survive this afternoon or this evening, right? Now, other things, let me give you real science. Your palms get sweaty, you get tunnel vision. Some people even have nervous poos and pees before they get nervous going on stage, and that is your body literally pushing weight out so it can run. That's your fight or flight response. So now what has happened is, because of that, your body's getting acidic, and that is causing 95% of today's cancers, and autoimmune system is shut down. When we say, why nowadays are people getting cancer and common colds more often and all that kind of stuff, it's because your brain is constantly releasing those chemicals. Now, this was adaptive for our ancestors, because they were trying to stay away and not getting killed by tigers. It's maladaptive in today's world, because there is, my boss could yell at me, he ain't gonna kill me, he's not a tiger. But as you can understand, our body is doing that. So what human beings don't get is they just say, I'm stressed. They don't realize they're creating the stress. Nowadays it's traffic in a car, or my kids yelling out, or something's happened, and because I've had a chemical reaction in my brain, it's actually releasing, and when I talk about chemical reactions, so adrenaline and cortisol. Have you ever seen a president of any country or a prime minister? We have prime ministers, American presidents. Did you see Obama when he was president and when he ended up? That is stress. Because there's acid constantly in your system that is actually degenerating your inside tools and making it stressful. So when we all talk about stress, it is not good, because it's actually doing damage inside. And what's the opposite? Why mindfulness and meditation? Now, they're two different things. I find mindfulness and meditation, there's a mindfulness meditation, which is a guided one. There's a meditation where you actually have to do nothing. That is the real meditation. You just let it flow. Now, when you're doing that, you have actual bliss chemicals being released in your body. Again, just bringing this back to science, right? So when those bliss chemicals are released, your body is not degenerating as quickly as it normally would, and you're actually 8 to 10 years younger. Now, so a stressed person would actually not only fall sick more often, their body is degenerating faster, whereas a person who knows how to control their system, and that's what mindfulness and meditation is, it's not just going humming in the room, it's creating bliss chemicals in your body which actually protects your whole immune system, and it's alkaline state. Acidic, you're putting acid in your body all the time, alkaline state, you're healing. Your body knows how to heal itself. In today's world, unfortunately, we just find a pill. Oh, something's wrong, let's just take a pill. We over-medicated, as I say, under-educated. In the book, I've got this term that I use. If you only learn how our body can heal itself, and that's what the Buddhist monks and these guys do. So, thanks for coming, because if you understand what stress is, you can't avoid it, but you can actually train your brain how to release your chemicals in your body.
Awesome. That's a deep insight.
It's needed. Because in the Western world, when entrepreneurs are just switched off, I'm surprised. You'll find in America, people are switched on. They're actually on this. There's 30% of Fortune 500 companies who have some kind of mindfulness course in their workplace. In Australia, they're picking up now. In schools, it is mandatory. I'm from New Zealand. I've actually just flown in from New Zealand India, and I'm going to New Zealand after this, because the New Zealand Prime Minister has announced a wellbeing budget. She has acknowledged that this mental health issue, 1 in 5 Australians has a mental health problem. And we're not talking about this because it's okay. And being an entrepreneur, it would be easy to say it's just a 9 to 5 job creating stress. Yes, that does, because you're getting out of bed, knowingly going to a job you might hate. Why more of us becoming entrepreneurs? That's 20% of the stress gone. And when I left banking, I had people saying, what are you doing? You're making this good money, people respect you, clients love you. And I said, what I'm doing is, I'm just transferring stress. It's a stress transfer, it's nothing else. I'll make more money so I can live in a better house, maybe even a better restaurant, drive a better car, but I'm just transferring stress. So by becoming an entrepreneur, I'll probably have less money, but I've taken the stress and anxiety out of just making more money for the sake of it. And keeping up with the Joneses is very true with our social media work. So you have to go against the grain being an entrepreneur, and that's what it is. Make less money in the short term, and if you have a product that's going to meet the market needs, you might even have the money in the long term. Thanks.
Thank you.
Stop.
Farzan, you mentioned that other countries are a little bit ahead of the curve compared to Australia, especially America, the United States. Michael, you come around quite a bit, and you got to know a lot of businesses, companies around the world so far. And mindfulness, everyone is talking about it. A lot of people do not really understand what it is all about. Could you bring a little bit light into the darkness here?
Sure. I might start by elaborating a little bit about what Farzan is saying, because there is a neurochemical side to it, which is fantastic. And it's good that we're starting to understand it, because we have better science system to understand different chemical reaction and electronic reactions that we have in the brain right now. So when it comes to stress, indeed, there is the two systems, the parasympathetic and the sympathetic systems, and they kind of counter each other. So sympathetic system is the one that Farzan was talking about, where we basically wired for survival, and we see any kind of threat, lizard brain kicks in. It's the more ancient part of our brain. That part is really concerned with survival. That's all it does. And as soon as it kicks in, it also shuts down higher functions. Right? And then the parasympathetic is the one where we relax and sort of defrag, so to speak, using all the language of computer term. But parallel to that, one of the things that will help us to understand mindfulness and understand how does stress work in terms of our mind. Because basically our mind is what drives the conversation. If you notice, when you get up in the morning, it's not like you have some time where you wake up and then there isn't a chatter there, right? You wake up and bang, the chatter sort of starts. And that inner conversation that we have in our head is something that is very hard to control. And it's made out of a whole lot of pieces of old stuff that we've inherited from our environment, our caregivers, whatever it is that when we were growing up. So as we're growing up, a lot of that happens in the first 6 to 7 years. we start to bring in a whole lot of stuff that we hear, and we kind of assimilate it into something that sounds like a coherent self, simply because every time you feel into it, you feel that you have a sense of self. If you tune into any sentence that you say, I am whatever it is, I'm hungry, I'm angry, I'm stressed, all of that happens, there is a felt sense to that experience, which is the I, right? And anything above the I, or anything that sometimes you can look at it as is, the I is a sort of a vertical force that rises up, but anything else other than the I is a thought. It's a thought that attaches itself in terms of how we perceive our identities. So when you start to look at stress, you can see that there's different kinds of stress that are all operating at the same time. And unlucky for us, the 21st century people, we have a lot of those patterns all kind of playing a part in why we get so stressed. So for example, we're not supposed to live in this environment. It's actually a stressful environment for us. We're supposed to live on the ground, we're supposed to live with trees around us and so on. And so there's a lot of stress simply because we kind of, to paraphrase Karen Armstrong, we're kind of walking around with a wilderness-shaped hole in our heart. For 250,000 years, most of the time, 90%, 95% of the time, we live in a very natural environment, and we're actually lacking that sort of greenery, that sort of setup, in such a way that it's a stress to the body. Noise is stress, artificial light is stress, chemicals are stress. So there's a level of stress that attacks us in a sense from the outside simply because we're not in the right environment. The second stress is the kind of stress that was mentioned in terms of the parasympathetic versus sympathetic system, where we stress whenever we feel threatened. And if in the past, indeed, like we were threatened by tigers, or lions, or hyenas for that matter, now we're threatened by a whole lot of stuff because we're just not familiar with it. So we were quite comfortable when we were living in the savannah because we knew what was going on. And when we got attacked, we had ways to react to that, but the rest of the time we were quite comfortable. You as an individual would have known pretty much anyone you come across. You would live with 100 to 150 other people that you would know very intimately. You would know where you're supposed to be in that sort of hierarchy. All that sort of stuff was going on. There was a lot more balance between the kind of wisdom that would come through the feminine, that comes through the masculine, than we have now. So all of that is stressful in the sense that we are foreign also to the way that our lizard brain is trying to react to the stresses of nowadays. An example that will help maybe to understand it is that if you think of a group of zebras, for example, and they're all hanging out together, they're eating grass, fantastic day, the sun is shining, and then suddenly there is an attack. What happens? If you think about them kind of hanging out in what you would call a green zone, that is, they're just chilling out together, they're eating, they're happy, and then suddenly they go into a red zone, they go into a fear or flight mechanism. And for 20 minutes maybe they're in that zone, okay? They're running for their life. Sooner or later, Jack or Mary went down, and within 20 minutes, what you'll see is that the zebras that were left, which is the majority of them, will go back into a green zone, I'm not saying, we don't know enough about sentient beings to say, well, they don't have any emotions about Jack or Mary disappearing. But by and large, they go back into a green zone, right? And that's how our nervous system is supposed to act. But for us, what happened is that we continuously in foreign environment, and in that sense, we're all the time under attack. We're all the time, even if we don't know what's happening behind that door, there is a part of our brains that's kind of thinking, where should I go out if a fire starts? Like not consciously, but that part is charged with keeping us alive, and it's on high alert all the time because we kind of hang out in these sort of spaces. So that's the second kind of added stress. And the third stress, and sorry, this is a long answer, but I'm trying to get to the mindfulness thing. The third stress is that you'll notice the conversation in your head is actually what dictates your relationship with life. So an interesting experience for us as humans is that beyond that sense, that felt sense of I, everything else is built on the conversations that you have in your life. That is to say that if you tend to be kind of suspicious, you will look for things to validate why you need to be suspicious. If you tend to be angry in a sense because you've had a lot of issues as a child, you will find all the right reason to be angry about, because the universe, as it happens around you, has a lot of input into our brains. At any given moment, we get about a few million bits of data coming in. And even though we have the most complex sort of piece of equipment in the natural universe in between our ears, we can only process about a few thousand in any split second, right? So guess what you process? You process the stuff that you're familiar with. You process, you see, you hear, you perceive stuff that validates all the things that we actually expect to happen. And so the conversation in our head keeps happening in such a way that it reaffirms whatever we see outside, seems to reaffirm whatever we think inside, which is why it was so important, as per your sharing before, that we start to edit, we start to alter our own narrative in a way that is actually more conducive and more helpful. The role of mindfulness in that, in a sense, is for us to become aware of that narrative and realize, A, what are the patterns of this narrative? We're on autopilot. We all the time react. Someone says something and boom, they remind us something. We might not even be conscious of it, but they remind us of something in the past, and we're projecting whatever was going on into that present moment and react from within that, right? So that narrative is something that's happening on automatic pilot unless we start to be conscious and say, okay, I'm going to start to decipher why do I have the thoughts that I have, and I'm going to start to understand if there's a way for me to change that. The second part of it is, as I mentioned before, your life is a story, but there is something there which is prior to that story. That sense of I is actually not in the part of the brain that has words. And if you start to use the practices or the experiences that mindfulness make available to understand and observe and inquire into who is it that I that is watching the experience, that can watch myself do stuff, that can understand and perceive that when I do it, instead of doing it on automatic pilot, I start to make choices. Does this serve me? Is this a wise strategy for me? Can I take a different path in terms of the way that I react? If my child behaves in a way that is not conducive or not happy or doesn't fit with the way that I think that child needs to behave, or if my colleague reacts in such a way that irks me or annoys me, I have a choice there. I might not have a choice for what's happening, but I have a choice on how I'm going to react. Mindfulness, in a sense, when it's applied in the day-to-day basis, it's not about sitting in a cave or some sort of a present position on a kutu. It's more about how do I become aware of my awareness in the present moment. That's where the beauty of it. It allows you to start to decipher which patterns that I have on automatic pilot are not serving not serving myself, and how can I start to edit that and choose patterns using neuroplasticity, using practices, choose patterns that allow me to edit and create a better narrative, a narrative that serves me, that makes me more relaxed, less stress, so to speak, and so on. Does that make sense?
So just to give you that as well, now obviously I grasped almost 97% of what he said, but when I went to mindfulness, what I found in the last 2 years, again, people switch off because they're still listening to the people who've been in that field for a long time. So what I've recently done is I used to, with Success Simplified, I started on mindfulness courses where I was actually providing a room of 20, taking them through an 8-week course myself. And what I've recently done is you can jump on Success Simplified and actually try the first week for free. It's just a free session I've created for people to understand what mindfulness is and all that stuff. But mindfulness is simple. On the course, there's 8 weeks of attention. In today's world, smart, technologically driven world, there's everything that's demanding attention, could be internal or external forces. External forces, my email just gone off at work, all my smartphones just gone off, and I've got a deal. This is what is stressing most of us out right now because we're constantly being pulled in different directions. That's an external force. But the internal force that was being spoken out there is your own thoughts in your head. Now, let me give you an example. Something happened. He said something rude to me right now, and I got angry. That's my automatic reaction. So that's automatically something you're going to do. But that's my automatic reaction. I got peed off because what he's saying is not right. He doesn't know me. But what mindfulness is saying, I can't change the situation of what he said. I can decide how I process this information and react to it. So when somebody makes a snide remark, you might go, okay, this person has nothing against me. You actually not becoming the thought yourself. And this is the technique I've said, the internal dialogue. You become a third party to the conversation. You're not sad, you just experience sadness. Because you're not sad all the time, are you? Something externally happened which created that emotional response in you, and you're experiencing sadness, or you're experiencing anger. And what mindfulness will do is detach you from that thought and that emotion. Again, mindfulness is different, meditation is different. Mindfulness has a kind of meditation in it. If you want to understand mindfulness very simple, it's stopping you from adding on more stress in your life. Because now you're processing the information better and going, I don't need to stress about this. This is not life-threatening, as we just spoke about. Your brain goes, this is not life-threatening. This will pass. You won't be angry forever, you won't be sad forever, you won't be happy forever. And just covering on the story. So we have a week called Ego Identity. From the time you were born, you're given a name, you're Australian, you're male, you live here, you're this big, all that. So we're adding and piling up this identity after identity. In my example, 3 years back, I was a person who was raised in India, who was a Kiwi, who was living in Australia. And every time someone asked me where you're from, I had to explain the whole bloody thing, right? That was my identity, and I was a successful banker. And 2.5 years back, when I gave up the banking, I was lost. I was lost. Because the last 37 years of my life was that identity. I was attached to that, a successful banker. And then I had to sit back, and this is going to be hard work. Most people experience, people are like, tell me the one secret. I'm like, there is no one secret. It took you 30 or 40 years to get 30 or 40 years old, and our program is 8 weeks online, because if you've got lifelong patterns, it takes you time to change that, and you've got to acknowledge that. There's no quick fix for life. But in that following 1 year, I went back to asking myself 2 questions. Who am I? What do I want out of my life? That's as simple as what I had to answer. Not what my mom wants, not what somebody else wants. And when I asked, it's funny, as I said, I've got one of my ex-colleagues that asked my ex-boss, I said, who are you? He's like, this is my name, father of 2 kids, I live here. That is not your identity, that is not you. That is just extrinsic identity. And most people, now this is going down the slightly spiritual part, but I don't think most of us have actually spent time understanding who we are, what makes us us, what drives us. And this is what I say, people say, what's success simplified? I'm like, when you know why you get out of bed in the morning without an alarm clock, that's success. And if you can spend the rest of your life doing that, you don't need an alarm clock and go, oh, then I'm going for a job just to make money, just so I can be happy in the future. And this is it. When I get to this money, I'll be happy. When I have the perfect partner, I'll be happy. I actually do one of these talks. I also do speaking. But yeah, life, just if you can take something out of it, if you want your life to change, life is an inside job. Don't look for the answers outside. All the answers you want are inside. You're just going to have to put in the effort. Yeah, thanks.
Thanks a lot. So we've learned what stress is and how we can get rid of stress by being mindful and incorporating meditation to get rid of stress. There's the other side of the story is how do we move to success, not just eliminating the stress, but thriving in what we are doing. And I think, Rade, you did a lot of research, what companies out there are doing to get more energy, more efficiency, and more happiness out of their employees. Would you like to share some of it?
Yes. So in terms of research, yes, I've met, so that was accidental as well, but I started meeting a lot of CEOs from the companies and people who run a team, and myself being part of teams when I was in corporate, doing corporate finance, so I was being in the senior management table, however that was, but I had one side experience that I had experienced that how teams get managed when it comes to working with their team. And what I've noticed is one with experience, and then I'll align with number 2, which is my research. Experience says that they work in the team, they never work on the team. So, and same with their business, they work in their business, they never work on their business. And with my research, I had the same answers that they are trying to find so many alternative solutions to how make their team perform better, but they're stuck in that thought process that we want more results, we want more results, we want more results. And then I see this absolute contradictory pattern as what Farzeen was saying, that when your email comes up and then you get distracted, and your mobile rings and you get distracted. And then I saw my own pattern, what I used to work as, or I was taught to work as, that, hey, you haven't responded to my email yet. Did you get the client's email yesterday? And yes. And if you haven't responded, speak 24 hours. It's a policy. If you have to respond in 24 hours, but if you have such kind of policies, how do you expect the productivity to go higher? Because you want me to respond within an hour. You want me to give a point within 24 hours, which means I'm constantly going from one page to another. And how many of you, including David, sometimes, because I sit next to him sometimes, have too many windows.
You abandoned me.
Fine, I'll go find another spot. No. How many of you have a lot of tabs open on your computer? That's a distraction too. Because something pops up in another tab, right? And you're doing something on one. Imagine you're writing a blog, and then if you have a notifications or one of such apps open on the tab, a notification comes up, you suddenly get tempted to check that. Your flow breaks like that. And then when you come back, research, as you say, the research told me it takes a human brain 20 minutes to come back in the same flow state of mind. A flow state hits you accidentally to every single person. Has anyone ever experienced that time dilation? Like you have time goes faster for you, or either slower. Suddenly slows down. You have no idea about your surroundings. The sound around you is dim. It's not loud anymore. And the way you're working is like something happens. You become something else. You become like a better version of yourself, and you become Superman all of a sudden. And by the end of the day, you have just created this masterpiece, or you just created your dream business, or you just wrote the best article of your life that got the maximum clicks and got you revenue or something. I'm pretty sure that's what happened to J.K. Rowling when she wrote Harry Potter. But it happens to all of us. I mean, she was about to take her life, and then she wrote Harry Potter. She got into a flow state of mind. Luckily, she was so poor that she didn't have distractions, so she couldn't afford them. We don't have to be that, but we can switch that off. And when I say that I made those companies, when I asked them a question, I made them my guinea pigs. And I told them that if you do this, this, and this, this, and this, and then I showed them certain techniques of meditation, which were easily adaptable by them. They were not complicated. They were so easily adapted by them. And I said, like, if you do that, that's 20 minutes in the morning, make that your ritual. And when you wake up, do one thing that you do that constantly for 3 months, like make your bed. The moment you wake up, do an action that you do it replicated, make your bed. Then do 10 minutes exercise. I'll teach you 2 simple techniques of meditation, do that for 10 minutes. And go to work. And work for 2 hours straight. We had got like 6-7 weeks of work done within 2 weeks or 3 weeks. That's the kind of results I got if you turn off your notifications, if you turn your head off. Don't get curious about what's happening outside. Don't need to open your windows and check it all the time what's happening outside. It's all right. Like, every time you open your email, I'm pretty sure everyone's okay. No one died. And you just go into that zone when you just pull yourself in. You don't go into flow state accidentally. You create it with super consciousness. And you can easily do it if you make it a practice. Like, just incorporate tiny little things into your life. Replications, do it again and again, and turn off all the tabs and notifications and your phones. 2 to 3 hours a day. Get all the work done. And that changes your life. That's how I was successfully able to run 1, not 2, not 3 businesses, and I'm working with people who are in Sydney and working with people who are in WA. I wasn't like that. Trust me. Last job, I resigned because I wasn't able to handle it. It was too much. I had to deal with 300 engineers, and they were driving me crazy. And I went into the office one day and said, quit. These engineers are crazy. And then I realized I could have done better if I could have just understood an inside-out approach. And there it is.
Awesome.
Thank you.
And you discovered meditation to be your daily practice?
Yeah, that happened accidentally because I was also, when you hit your rock bottom, you know, sometimes that's when you want to make something happen. Until then, when you're in your safe zone, it doesn't hit you that much. So when I hit my rock bottom, I knew that I have decided to quit my job on purpose now. And now there are issues in home front, and now there are issues in other aspects of life. How do you deal with all of that? And that's when I realized, like, it's not just those 300 engineers. Life's gonna give that to me no matter what I do. It's gonna be 300 different things. So those 300 engineers were a metaphor of what life was gonna show you, it was trying to show me. So that what made me learn that if I implement certain things every single day and make it very easier or very aligned for my mind to understand, it's not that difficult. And that's when I started doing 10 minutes of meditation every day, not skipping a day. Because when you skip a day, you fall out of the flow. And I did not want to. And I started teaching myself one after the other, from simple techniques to complex techniques to controlling the energy, and then sustaining the energy, spreading the energy across the room, actually communicating with people through mind, and we did some telepathic communications. We did a research on there where we send messages through mind and through telepathy. For me, it's as simple as internet. It is no different concept than internet. If you can't see internet waves when they exist and you're able to send messages, it's the exact same way. And people have done it in the past. And then I realized how Aristotle used to fall into theta state to actually communicate with his subconscious better. So I started finding techniques of falling into theta state faster, to get answers faster from my subconscious. So many answers are locked in the subconscious. But a habit of waking up first thing in the morning, write your dreams. They are your subconscious and your metaphor talking to you. The kind of dreams that are written now, I can't imagine the answers I've got out of my dreams. They're incredible, they talk to you. You're sleeping, you're alpha. The stage between alpha and when you awake is theta. And that's when your subconscious is like super active. It's trying to talk to you. But when you wake up, you don't remember. Do first thing, like you wouldn't remember the very first day, but as you get into the habit, you start remembering your dreams. As soon as you wake up, write them down. And then you start making sense out of them. Even if they're too complicated, you start making sense out of them slowly. And that's how I put everything together and simplified it. That how can I teach it to others? Like, this is quite complex. When I wrote all those papers and papers and papers of work, I realized it's a bit complex. How do I simplify it? So that's when I worked on simplifying those methods and getting them to simple, short meditations, which I can actually get people to implement easily, or just giving half an hour of their life every morning.
I think we do not have half an hour, but
Every morning.
right now. But is there a short meditation that you would like to guide right now?
Everyone's.
Do you want to do meditation? Yeah. Yes.
On your phone and just right, yeah?
And I promise again, no one will die.
Do we get to do it as well? Let's see what you like.
I think you really like to do it, so you can.
When I drop stuff, do I have to put it away?
It'll be better. It's just less distraction. So if your phones are on, let's stop the distractions right away. Exceptions for Atula, because he's recording this. Are you sure? Okay. You don't need to do this or clear your mind or any of that. It's going to be a very simple one. Just make yourself comfortable in any position that you feel in. You want to swap or change your seat, you can do it. If you're feeling relaxed already, you're ready to close your eyes. I'm just going to show you the power of controlled breathing and how to control your heartbeat. Inhale through your nose, deep one. And exhale through your mouth. Inhale one more time through your nose. And exhale through your mouth. Let me show you the power of shapes. After feeling a little relaxed, to imagine soft but powerful light entering through the crown of your head into your body. Let it sit on the crown of your head for a second. Now moving between your eyes. It sits there for a second. It's covering your face, your throat, shoulders, your heart, your entire chest, and also your whole body, your thighs, your knees, and your toes. You're now filled with the light from the universe. Belongs to you. I would now like you to imagine the light is slowly expanding out of you, covering this room. See and try if you can cover Melbourne. Try covering Victoria. See if we can expand out to Australia. And we can expand out through the globe. And we're rising up above. We are deeply connected with the source. I want you to now imagine a dot appearing right in front of you. Very vivid. A dot appearing on the left side of your body. A dot appearing on the right side of your body. dot appearing underneath you. Another one pops up on the crown of your head. And the last one right behind you. Now as you connect these dots with simple lines, and if you have done it correctly, you're now sitting inside a pyramid. I want you to catch the first thought. Stress could be a thing, an object, a person, or business, control, anything that first pops up to you in the first 6 seconds. It came to you because it's important to you. Inside the pyramid, I want you to align and put that thought carefully where you want to place it. And now you know exactly where it sits. Repeat that with 3 more things that is important to you right now. How about it? Carefully place them on the corners of this pyramid and remember where you want to place them. Your projects and your thoughts are now aligned inside the pyramid that you're sitting on. You can come back to it every single time. Whenever you want to pick one of them and do with one of them. And remember to do one at a time. You can now close the pyramid back into your body as it's a part of you. You can now slowly come back to the space where you're sitting now. And the light that has entered your crown is now going through the spine into the ground that you're connected with and forming your roots into the ground. So as you come back, you're deeply, deeply rooted into this ground. Whenever you're ready, you can open your eyes.
Thank you very much for that. That's easy. We can do that more easily.
It was just a very easy way of how to align. Sometimes you can also create 2 pyramids. What I do is I create a mirror image of myself in the other pyramid, and I align my project with pyramids in front of me, and sometimes not in my space if I am going through stress, so that I know that I can open and unlock it and go back to where I want to, but I can still keep my space free. That helps me to reduce the stress quite fast. So however you're comfortable with it, they can really be very helpful. So you can process that 5-7 minutes in your mind and see how powerful that becomes.
Can I just do for all you guys out there? This was a guided visualization one. But just if you're just starting off, what I'd also say is make it very simple. Every human being goes through these brainwave stages every morning. Okay, so your alpha state is essentially when you've just woken up, you're just in bed. If you want to just understand alpha state, your brain activity is just vibrating at certain gigahertz. Okay, so you've just woken up, you're not very active, but you're conscious, you're awake. That's how we want to, and that is the alpha state where even Newton and stuff used to fall asleep because his best ideas come in. It's happened twice where I've woken up and I can keep myself in that state without actually waking up. It's just that state of consciousness, because what is consciousness? Consciousness is just awareness. Okay? So your alpha state is when you've just woken up. Then your beta state is when you've woken up, you've started playing with your phone, who's messaging on WhatsApp or on your Facebook. And this is the one thing where I would say meditation in the alpha state is kind of brilliant. It's just, don't have to lie in bed because I saw him yawning already. All meditation could be, start off simple, is de-exciting your nervous system. So you've just woken up, and all you want to do is, even if you just say to yourself, I'm going to breathe in and out 20 times. That's all you're trying to do, right? You're de-exciting your system, and you're giving it oxygen when you're woken up. Most people, when they wake up, the first is who's like my comments on Facebook and all of that stuff. And this is where we're creating unnecessary stress. Your beta state is when you then had your coffee and you're wide awake, you're having a shower. There's underneath states where if you want to understand your subconscious mind, you're going into a theta state. Okay? That is, imagine now you've done your whole day, you've come back home, you've lied in bed, and you're trying to now automatically, you're tired, so you're finally going off, and you're about to nod off. Now that is a stage, I won't go into too much detail, but I've actually experimented on myself. That's the stage where if hypnosis is used correctly, and there's a stigma around it, you can actually change your subconscious pattern. Your subconscious pattern is your brain, which controls 95% of your life. And encrypted within the first 8 years of your life, days of your brain state. And then the deeper state is delta when you're deep sleep. So every human being has access to this every single day. So if you just want to meditate and make it simple, all you're trying to do is just breathe in and out. And when you get better, because as I said, mindfulness is as simple as stopping news to you, because you go, okay, this is nothing to worry about, this is just going to pass. And there's different, there's 8 weeks and stuff into it. The meditation, because I'm 40 now, I've created stresses in my life and I've got memories of this. My first breakup, when I was almost broken, homeless or whatever, and this and all that kind of stuff, there's a memory in my head and there's an emotional response attached to it. What meditation does is, in that state of consciousness, you're at a stage where it's releasing that stage, you're finally letting it go. Because your body, as I said, can heal itself. You're getting into that stage where you're letting go of the past baggage. Example, windows. You've got all these windows, you've got these negative memories. And we're creating additional stress because we've never let it go. So meditation, again, without going into too much detail, is to release the old baggage. Mindfulness is to stop taking on fresh stress. And then obviously, the pyramid project and the stuff, the way she explained it, is when you get to manifest stuff. If any one of you out here has got a science background, Tesla essentially said the universe can be described energy, frequency, vibration. So when someone says something rude to me, I'm getting angry, all it is doing is because of the thought, there's a feeling and emotion attached, my vibration is raised. So you're taking a vibration back there. That's it. Everything in this world is vibrating at a certain energy. And you just want to get at that certain energy where you're not stressing yourself off and going on peaks and troughs. Most of the day you're trying to go there. Sorry. Stop down there.
Thank you so much for that. And I think that's where we're wrapping up the official part of it. Thank you so much to all three of you for your time and sharing your insights. And I would like to open up the panel to the audience if you do have any questions that you want to ask them.